11 things old money women never wear. Some of the most common, stylish pieces today would be unthinkable in the wardrobe of a woman raised on quiet wealth. Not because they're unattractive, but because they clash with a deeper code of elegance. You'll likely recognize a few from your own closet. By the end, you'll understand the real language of refined dressing, and the last one might genuinely surprise you. Insight 1. Logos that speak louder than you. There's a quiet kind of confidence that never needs to prove itself. When you wear clothing that's covered in logos, even subtly, it can signal something you may not intend, like a need to show worth through association. It's not always about the item itself, but what it's saying on your behalf. Women raised around generational wealth tend to avoid visible branding, not because they dislike luxury, but because they don't need their clothes to tell their story. A handbag doesn't need to scream its price to feel valuable. In fact, the more understated it is, the more powerful it becomes. Compare a bag with oversized logos to one in beautifully structured leather with no obvious branding. Both might cost the same, but one is seeking attention. The other trusts that those who know will know. When your outfit isn't performing for approval, it frees you. There's a shift. You're no longer dressing to be seen as someone. You're dressing because you already are. This doesn't mean avoiding luxury. It means choosing pieces that reflect certainty, not social proof. And that difference? It shows up in every step you take. Insight 2. Over-structured pieces that signal insecurity. There's a fine line between structure and stiffness, and sometimes what we wear in the name of polish ends up feeling more like armor than expression. You might notice this in overly tailored blazers that box in your shoulders, or dresses so rigid they leave no room to exhale. But confidence isn't about restriction. It shows in the ease of your movement, the way fabric flows with you, not against you. That's why women who've grown up around old money tend to favor silhouettes that support, rather than control. Their clothing isn't trying to hold them in place, it's allowing them to be fully present. Soft tailoring, fluid lines, and pieces that follow the body without gripping it too tightly, these choices speak with quiet strength. They suggest someone who isn't trying to prove control because they already feel it from within. Structure has its place, but not as a shield. Think of it more like scaffolding, there to hold the shape, but never to hide the person inside. The more your clothes let you move freely, the more space you give your presence to speak for itself. And that's a kind of elegance that's felt, not forced. Insight 3. Overly matched accessories that feel performed. There's a point where coordination tips into performance. Matching your shoes to your bag, your belt to your earrings, your lipstick to your nails, it can start to feel more like a costume than personal style. And while it might look polished at first glance, it rarely feels natural. Old money style isn't obsessed with perfection. It's built on a quiet confidence that doesn't need every detail to line up in neat symmetry. Instead, you'll often see pieces that complement rather than match. A camel bag paired with deep olive shoes, gold jewelry next to a silver watch. It's not random. It's intentional without being overthought. This kind of restraint creates something more trustworthy. You're not trying to impress with coordination. You're expressing with subtlety. And that difference is felt, not just seen. Think of it like music. The best harmonies aren't made from identical notes, but from tones that balance and support each other. That's how understated style works. It's not loud, it's not calculated, it simply flows because it comes from someone who isn't trying to prove she knows what she's doing. She just does. Insight 4. Artificial fabrics that disrupt natural presence. Some materials wear you more than you wear them. Shiny synthetics, stiff blends, fabrics that cling or rustle too loudly, they can create a kind of visual noise that distracts from your presence rather than supporting it. Old money style leans into materials that breathe and move with subtlety. Think cotton, wool, silk, linen. These aren't just choices of texture, they're choices of energy. Natural fabrics respond to light differently. They carry weight in a way that grounds you. They soften over time, aging with grace instead of breaking down quickly. There's also a kind of sensory intelligence behind these choices. When your clothing feels good on the skin, your body relaxes. And when you're not adjusting, pulling, or feeling out of sync with your clothes, you carry yourself differently. It's not about having a massive wardrobe. It's about investing in fewer, better pieces that support you through many seasons. Materials that live and breathe, just like you. Because true presence doesn't need shine, it needs depth. And depth is something synthetic can't imitate. Insight 5. Trend-driven cuts that expire mentally fast. You've likely worn something that felt perfect one month and completely out of place the next. That's the nature of trend-driven cuts. They rise quickly, dominate your feed, then fade just as fast. But the real cost isn't just financial, it's mental. When your wardrobe constantly revolves around what's in, it becomes harder to hear your own style voice. You start dressing for relevance, not resonance. And that constant reinvention can leave you feeling disconnected from who you actually are. Women raised around old money tend to avoid this cycle altogether. Their wardrobes aren't curated for the moment, they're built for the long term. Think tailored trousers, well-cut blouses, coats that hold their shape year after year. These pieces aren't dull, they're dependable. They evolve with you, instead of forcing you to adapt to them. Timeless tailoring doesn't mean outdated. It means grounded. When you reach for clothes that have stayed with you, season after season, you're also reinforcing a sense of self that isn't swayed by trends. That kind of style builds not just a look, but a legacy. Insight 6. Loud prints that distract from the woman herself. There's a certain kind of print that walks into the space long before you do. Bold colors, chaotic patterns, shapes that clash rather than connect. They create noise, especially in environments that invite calm. Refinement doesn't compete with its surroundings. It knows when to speak and when to let presence do the talking. That's why women who dress with a quiet kind of wealth often lean into understatement, not to blend in, but to remain fully present. You can still express personality through subtle prints, fine stripes, soft florals, muted geometrics. These add interest without pulling the focus away from you. Because true elegance is about clarity. It knows the difference between being seen and being looked at. When your outfit doesn't demand all the attention, it creates space for your voice, your expression, your energy. And in that space, people don't just notice your style, they feel your presence. Insight 7. Excessive shine that competes with your composure. There's a difference between catching the light and chasing it. When too much shine enters an outfit, metallic fabrics, high-gloss finishes, sequin-heavy pieces, it can end up pulling focus away from the woman wearing them. Shimmer has its place, but refinement understands balance. Muted elegance, found in matte finishes, soft silk, brushed metal, often feels far more luxurious than overt sparkle. It draws the eye in, rather than shouting for attention. Excessive shine, especially in daylight, can age a look or send signals that don't align with the setting. And sometimes what begins as glamour can quickly feel out of sync. Old money style leans into textures that hold depth rather than reflect it. A silk blouse with a gentle sheen, a velvet blazer with understated richness. These speak softly but leave a lasting impression. When your outfit reflects light and harmony, not competition, with your composure, it allows your presence to remain the center of attention. And that is a kind of beauty no sparkle can replace. Insight 8. Items that signal desperation for status. There's a quiet line between aspiration and desperation, and clothing often reveals which side we're on. Flashy logos, oversized designer belts, or shoes worn more for the label than the fit, they rarely speak of confidence. More often, they hint at a deeper need to prove value through appearance. Old money women don't rely on clothing to create presence. Their confidence enters the space before the outfit is even considered. The clothes are there to support, not define it. That's why their style often feels understated but complete. There's no rush to impress, no urgency to be noticed. Trend chasing and high-status dressing can easily become a cycle of fast validation. But real refinement grows from long-term investment in self, in quality, in clarity of expression. The outfit is simply an extension of something already solid. When your pieces affirm who you are, instead of trying to gain approval, you free yourself from the exhausting need to perform. And in that freedom, real style begins. Not because you're reaching for status, but because you no longer need it to speak for you. Insight 9. Statement pieces that silence subtle power. Some pieces are so bold, they end up speaking louder than you. Oversized jewelry, dramatic feathers, towering heels, these aren't just accessories, they're declarations. But when every element of an outfit is making noise, your own energy can get lost beneath it. There's a difference between owning a moment and overtaking it. True elegance doesn't need to perform. It knows when to step forward and when to let the quiet do the talking. Old money style often avoids loud statement pieces, not because they lack beauty, but because they leave little room for presence to breathe. When your clothes are doing all the talking, there's no space left for the woman herself. The most powerful kind of style doesn't decorate your personality, it allows it to show through. A well-cut blazer, a delicate chain, an intentional color choice. These whisper instead of shout. And in that whisper is a strength that needs no spotlight. It's already shining from within. Insight 10. Overdone nails that break the illusion of grace. There's a point where grooming crosses into performance. Ultra-long nails, bold patterns, crystals, or sharp edges may feel fashionable, but they can easily distract from the quiet grace that defines refined femininity. Old money style values polish, yes, but not at the expense of practicality. It favors hands that look cared for, not curated for spectacle. Short, clean nails in neutral tones or a soft buff reflect a life that prioritizes ease and intention over constant upkeep. This isn't about rejecting beauty, it's about aligning it with function. When your nails don't interrupt your gestures or become the focus in a conversation, something subtle happens. People engage with you, not your manicure. Well-kept, understated nails send a quiet message of self-respect and mindfulness. They suggest a woman who has nothing to prove and everything in balance. In settings where trust and presence matter, it's often the smallest details, done simply, that leave the deepest impression. Insight 11. Revealing cuts that replace mystery with noise. There's power in what's left unseen. When clothing reveals too much, plunging necklines, extreme cutouts, barely there hems, it can pull focus away from your presence and place it entirely on your body. And in doing so, it often replaces depth with noise. Mystery isn't about hiding, it's about choosing what deserves to be shared. Women rooted in old money values understand that strategic coverage isn't about modesty alone. It's about owning the room without offering everything at once. Strength shows up in how you choose to dress, not in how much skin you expose. A well-placed drape, a high neckline with an open back, a tailored silhouette that follows the shape without clinging, these invite attention in a more meaningful way. There's grace in restraint, and in that space of not revealing everything, you create room for curiosity, for conversation, for presence. Because when mystery leads, the woman is what people remember, not just the outfit. Bonus insight. Over-accessorizing that drowns personal identity. As a quiet thank you for staying until the end, one final piece that rarely gets named. Over-accessorizing isn't just a fashion choice. It's a distraction from clarity. True elegance allows room for stillness, for space, for the woman to breathe through the look. When every inch is filled, identity gets diluted. Jewelry, scarves, hats, they are not meant to complete you. They are meant to highlight what's already whole. Let them speak gently. If you're still watching, you're not here by accident. You're a part of this community of women choosing elegance, substance, and self-respect. Write the word graceful in the comments so I know you're one of us. I read every comment and I honor you for being here. If this video spoke to something deep within you, give it a like. It helps more women like you find this space. Subscribe to Donna for daily inspiration rooted in elegance, growth, and intentional living. Share this with a sister, friend, or daughter who's on her own journey toward timeless refinement. There's another video I think you'll love waiting for you right on the screen. Tap it, and I'll see you back here tomorrow with more wisdom, more grace, and more quiet power.